After your cat's settled in at home for a week or so, it's time to take her down to the vets for her first introductory check-over and vaccinations. Now, if you're having trouble settling on a vet's, it's a good idea to ask a few friends who've got pets where they go, get their recommendations, and also go and visit a few practices, meet the vets, meet the receptionists and the nurses, and have a look around the premises to make sure you're comfortable, because it's going to be the start of a long relationship between you and your vet practice. When you bring your kitten in for their first checkup and vaccination, your vet is going to go through all the things you need to think about to keep your kitten fit and healthy. And probably the most important one of those is vaccination. Now, your kitten will need 2 vaccinations between the ages of 9 and 12 weeks. And these protect her against all sorts of nasty diseases, including flu, enteritis, and probably most importantly of all, feline leukemia. This is a really nasty viral infection that cats pick up generally from fighting with other cats, and it's very important you ask your vet to include this in the vaccinations to protect your cat, especially when they're young. The other things that your vet is going to go through include worming, and a kitten should be wormed every 2 weeks until they're 12 weeks of age, and then every month for a couple of months before they go on to a 3-monthly worming regime when they're adults. Flea control is also something that your vet will go through, about making sure your cat doesn't have any fleas and what preventative measures can be taken. You should also ask your vet to implant a microchip under the scruff of your cat's neck when she is in for her first vaccinations. These tiny little chips are about the size of a grain of rice, and your vet will implant them with a needle under the scruff of your cat's neck, and this will permanently identify them. And your vet will also talk to you about neutering. Now, that's not something you need to worry about just yet, but when your cat is about 6 months old, you want to bring him or her in to be neutered, obviously to prevent any unwanted kittens. If you're a bit confused by all these kitten healthcare tips, then don't worry, because this is my kitten healthcare diary, showing you exactly what to do and when for the first 6 months. So firstly, at 7 to 8 weeks, your kitten will be coming home. You need to settle them in with a clean litter tray and plenty of fresh kitten food. Then, 9 weeks, it's time for his first trip to the vets for worming and vaccination. At 12 weeks, he's back at the vets for his second vaccination, and this is the ideal time to sort out pet insurance and have him microchipped. A week later, at 13 weeks, he's fully protected by his vaccinations, so he can go out and start exploring the garden. At 16 weeks, it's time for another dose of worming, and then he needs to be wormed every 3 months from then on. And finally, at 6 months, it's time to have him neutered. And if you follow all of these tips, you shouldn't go too far wrong with your new kitten. Looking after your cat is a lifetime's work, and there's always lots to think about, from fleas to furballs. And here are my top tips for keeping your cat in very best of condition. Now, I'm going to be going through these tips here in the surgery, but they're generally things that you can do at home, so don't worry about the fact that I'm here in the surgery. This is all good advice just for generally looking after your cat at home. So we're going to start off with one of the most common problems, and that is, of course, the dreaded flea. Now, cats are very, very prone to fleas. They can pick them up from other cats, from hedgehogs, from dogs. And the way you can check if your cat has got fleas, I mean, there's several ways, but my tips are, one is just have a look through their fur on the back of their back there. So run your finger along that, and what you're looking for is little black specks or the actual fleas. Now, fleas themselves are little brown fellas. They're about sort of 2 or 3 millimeters long, and they'll be scurrying around in the fur. But if you're still not seeing anything, but you're still worried that your cat may have fleas, here's a little tip to really flush out those fleas that might be hiding away, and so you can actually get on and treat them. And the key is to take yourself a sheet of paper, like this, a sheet of white paper, and a fine flea comb. And then you simply comb your cat onto the paper, like this, and what this will do is any flea dirt, which are little black specks, will come out onto the paper. Then you take a bit of wet cotton wool, and you dab that onto the black specks. And if your cat has fleas, which thankfully Jill doesn't, but if there are fleas there, the black specks will then turn red, because what is in flea dirt is effectively partly digested blood from your cat, because fleas eat blood, and by wetting them it dissolves the blood and you'll get little red stains. So that's a good tip for convicting the flea passing sentence, and then you can get on and treat it. Now, modern flea treatments are very effective, and we've moved on a long way from the days of having to soak your cat in some nasty spray. And the best thing to do nowadays is either to use drops on the back of the neck. So there are various different products, and you basically take a vial from in here, you break it open, and you put it in the skin on the back of your cat's neck, and that actually spreads out through the coat of the cat. It doesn't enter their bloodstream, it spreads out through the fatty layer of the skin, and then when a flea comes along and bites, the flea keels over, and that kills the fleas off. There is an alternative. There's an oral treatment which you actually give, and that sterilises the fleas. So when the fleas bite, they don't die, they actually sterilise so they can't give birth to baby fleas and larvae and eggs. And that's an effective long-term control, and that also comes as an injection you can give in the back of the neck, and that lasts 6 months. So there's a few different ways of controlling fleas on the cat, but unfortunately controlling fleas on the cat is not the whole problem. For every flea you see hopping around on here, there's going to be about 100 eggs in the carpet, and they're going to obviously open up, they're going to hatch out, and you're going to have an ongoing flea problem. And to prevent that, here are my top tips for flea control in the house. And number one, get yourself a good flea spray. Now, these are not ones you use on the cat, these are ones you use around the house. You clean the house out, take the cat out, lock it out to the cat flap, or take it out for a day trip somewhere. And then you spray the house everywhere the cat goes. Also give it a good vacuum to pick up any flea dirt and larvae that's lying around. And that should get rid of fleas in the house. So just to summarise on flea control for your cat, you need to check regularly by running your hand through the coat at the base of the tail and look for those little black specks or the little brown fleas. Or if you're worried, use the combing technique out onto a piece of white paper and use the damp cotton wool to see if it turns red. If your cat has got fleas, or you just want to prevent fleas getting a hold, then use one of the medications you can get from your vet. So either the drops on the back of the neck, an oral medication, or the injection. And if you have a really bad flea problem, get a household flea spray, blitz the house, do some vacuuming. If you follow all those tips, you shouldn't ever have any trouble with fleas.